Good morning and welcome to the City of Richardson and UT Dallas information session on the Innovation Quarter IQ webinar. My name is Enrique Ziller, Research Education Programs and Outreach Manager in the Office of Research at the University of Texas at Dallas. I will be your moderator. Joining me today from the University of Texas at Dallas are Dr. Calvin Jamison, Vice President for Facilities and Economic Development, and Steve Guengerich, Associate Vice President for Innovation and Commercialization, and from the City of Richardson, Doug McDonald, Strategic Initiatives Manager. Our first presenter is Doug McDonald. Doug is the Manager of Strategic Initiatives for the City of Richardson, where he oversees special City Council-initiated projects and programs, which may include complex development and redevelopment projects, economic development activities, public-private partnerships, policy and ordinance development, and interdepartmental strategic plans and studies. One of Doug's current projects is the implementation of the Richardson Innovation District and Transit-Oriented Development. Prior to working for the City of Richardson, Doug was the Comprehensive Planning Manager for the City of Plano, where he managed the city's long-range planning efforts, historic preservation programs, and demographics research division. During his 13-year planning career, Doug has worked on numerous redevelopment and revitalization projects and neighborhood plans, which have won state and national planning awards. Doug is a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners and is actively involved with the American Planning Association, where he recently served as the chapter president for the Texas chapter. Welcome, Doug.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and to tell you a little bit more about the IQ and what we have been doing here with the City of Richardson. This is a quick overview of what I'll touch on. I will go very quickly, so if there's any questions you have, please feel free to use a chat or we can discuss it at the end. These slides will be available as well as part of the recording. But I'll quickly go through the background, some of the improvements and additions that we've seen over the past 2 and 3 years as we began this redevelopment initiative with the IQ. Some of our ongoing studies, which really play into some of the future programming we expect to occur here in the district. Some of our marketing outreach that we've began actually this fall with some of our programming online. And then to give you an overview of the framework of the district, and then the 1302 East Collins Catalyst site, which is why we are here today. So I'm going to throw you back a few 70 years ago to 1951 and show you this fun aerial that we have, which is really the birth of the telecom corridor. In 1951, Collins Radio relocated its electronics company from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, to Richardson, Texas, and built its first building of what would be a multi-building campus on a 400-acre site known here in the Richardson IQ. You can see the street cross-section of Alma and Collins and the massive amount of farmland that was there back in 1963. This really attracted the talent and engineering talent and eventually spawned several new technology-based enterprises. In the 1960s, Arapahoe Road really was the geographic center of the city's industrial district and heart of the original high-tech center. And in the decades to follow, technology and telecommunications continue to be the cornerstone of economic growth and development here in our community, and really created one of the largest technology centers in the United States, known as the Telecom Corridor. This is an aerial showing the original Collins Radio site, which is now a data center today, and really what was built around it. And these were really the supply chain businesses that supported the Collins Radio, supported Ericsson and TI, all along the telecom corridor. So all these small one-story flex space facilities and building stock really were the supply chain and played a really important role in the history of the telecom corridor in Richardson. They're now playing a very important role in the development and redevelopment of the Innovation Quarter because they serve such a unique purpose with the affordability and the flexibility of these one-story flex spaces. Give you a broader perspective of where this is located in respect to the campuses of UT Dallas and Richardson College. It is along the 75 corridor, tucked in with the telecom corridor, just north of our core district, which is our downtown area. 1,200 acres is the total acreage of the IQ, over 1,000 businesses, obviously pre-COVID time, but 19,000 plus employed within the IQ. Our two nearby institutions, and these play a very important role in the support and the implementation of an innovation district because of the catalysts that are needed from the research institutions and medical institutions all across the country. These really serve as the key pieces to a successful innovation district. And just the affordability and the mass amount of one-story flex space we have in the IQ. We have 7.5 million office and flex space in the IQ, and this really serves as a great spot for startups looking to begin their business and grow their business in the IQ. Though the IQ and the telecom corridor has diversified from its telecom roots, it still serves as one of those high-tech business clusters in North Texas. You'll see these clusters along the Addison, North Dallas area, the telecom corridor area, downtown Dallas, and the Las Colinas area. So really playing to our strengths is continuing to be a high-tech business corridor is one of those key pieces in the IQ. A lot of our existing companies still are again diversifying from the telecom roots, things like software for manufacturing, semiconductors for healthcare, some nanotechnology research and products being developed here in the IQ. Also a new maker space that has just opened up in the IQ. So we're starting to see a lot of the diversification, things like video gaming, even mobile phone software, cybersecurity, all play into kind of this hub of innovation and products being made here in Richardson, Texas. There's a full list of a lot of the companies on richardsoниq.com on our website, but this gives you a quick snapshot of some of our larger businesses and more innovative businesses in the technology industries. We started this initiative back in 2017 with a task force that really led the overall game planning for looking at how we redevelop and bring new development in this East Collins, Arapahoe area and create a game plan for private sector investment to support the city action. One of the key kind of results of this task force was the creation of an innovation district to really encourage more investment in the economic and physical assets in the district. From there, the city actually took on and commissioned a visioning study that included land use, market, mobility, and open space analysis. We developed a unified vision, some goals and strategies that were approved by our city council to really set the stage for that next generation of innovation that was part of that study. This is the vision for the IQ, is that this will be the premier tech hub in Texas. And to achieve this district will provide a place where a range of businesses across industries at different points of their growth can thrive. We talked about this several times these past 3 years, that we want businesses that start at UT Dallas and at Richardson College to be birthed at these universities and then to move to the IQ to be able to grow and expand, to really have that full ecosystem here in Richardson, Texas, of from the beginning to the end of a successful cycle in the business cycle. We want to support existing businesses while attracting new ones, continue to be the center of innovation and entrepreneurship here in North Texas, having a place that's visually green, lively, active, and unique. And you'll see we're beginning to add some of these characteristics and features into the district today, being walkable and bikeable, and having that Arapahoe Center Station serve as that key gateway to the district. The rail station itself serves as a very large catalyst and an entering catalyst for us as redevelopment occurs to serve as that front door to the IQ. These are our 10 strategies that City Council identified that we've been working towards these past 3 years, and I've highlighted 2 of them that really speak to the work that we're doing with the university, is creating a shared innovation space for new businesses, and also strengthening those partnerships with our universities and colleges for programming and marketing. So you'll see a lot of the work we're doing today that's in partnership with the university are tied specifically to these 2 actions that were identified and approved by our City Council as our work plan to achieve the IQ vision. In 2019, we took on a very massive rezoning initiative. I've worked for numerous cities here in North Texas, and I don't think any city has been more progressive in its rezoning efforts to really kind of code the vision, per se, that was identified in 2018. So we, as a city, rezoned 1,200 acres in the district to allow more entitlements, maximize development potential, and several key infrastructure and mobility projects that kicked off. Doing new bike lanes along Greenville Avenue, and looking at new Duck Creek Trail, trying to provide some of these amenities and mobility techniques and elements into the district to connect these businesses, to better connect them to the IQ and to connect them to the Arapahoe Center Station. And in 2020, we really kicked off a lot of different studies, new district name, and then also several key negotiations that have been launched, one being with the University of Texas at Dallas. Some of our improvement examples, give you some examples, the DART extension platform extension, which has been completed. We're also, in addition to this work, developing a west side connection. If you've been to our Arapahoe Center Station, there's only one side you can get off on the east side, and the west side's kind of landlocked. But we've been working with some of the property owners to make that connection on the west side to allow those businesses like 1050 Barbecue to have direct access onto the light rail station. Our new bike facilities, I mentioned, a new 1.5 miles on Alma Road, 4 miles on Greenville Avenue, which is the first physically separated facility in Richardson. This is the longest physically separated bike lane in North Texas. And so it's a great asset that connects our east side development down to our downtown area and provides a lot more safety measures for our bicyclists riding along this corridor. Our new Duck Creek Trail, which had its groundbreaking ribbon cutting last weekend, which connects the Duck Creek neighborhood all through the IQ and then connects our Duck Creek Trail over to Central Trail. So a really key piece for our business community. And the new safety technology that we're deploying, we really see the IQ as a place to test new technology and to be that living test bed. And this is one of those instances where we deploy new safety technology, these rapid flashing beacons that are passive detection and thermal cameras. And so as you get close, the lights turn on, there's no push button. And that is a unique feature that we've employed here the first time in Richardson. We've also started seeing the private sector start following the public sector's investment and having improvements on facilities. These are just two examples of some remodels that have been occurring. As we began to allow some flexibility in the code, these have started to come out as a result of some of the flexibility that we built into the new zoning code. We've also had new additions. I mentioned the new makerspace that was formerly known as the Plano Makerspace has moved here to Richardson at Arapahoe and will be opening by the end of the year. A new digital realty data center expansion, 100,000 square foot new data center opening up in 2022. And then Honeywell Historic Monument. This is something we've been working on that recognizes the first two-way radio voice transmission and photo sent via satellite, which occurred here in Richardson, Texas in August of 1960, which is now the Honeywell property. So we're working on a monument really that will acknowledge this history and really tells the uniqueness and history of technology here in Richardson. Some of our ongoing studies, we have a lot of work going into bond preparation. The City of Richardson has a bond program a bond proposition will be coming up in November of 2021. So we're doing a lot of work to price out a lot of different infrastructure improvements that may be that will be presented to City Council for their consideration for the future bond program. Things like our portals for future roadway improvements, public realm improvements, sidewalk connections, utility improvements, and all the above. We're doing a study with DART on the Arapahoe Center Station to look at redevelopment of that station. Also looking at reconfiguring of the bus transit center, which was built there in the 80s and really served as kind of the transit center for the northern area of North Texas before DART expanded up into the Plano area. So we have a lot of underutilized parking within this facility and a great opportunity for us to partner with DART on a redevelopment scenario. We did an innovation assets and ecosystem study and looking at what Richardson is doing compared to what's going on in North Texas, what's going on in Frisco and Fort Worth and Irving, and where we could really play a part in improving the ecosystem here in North Texas. We also looked at the biotech life sciences activities in the region and what is going on at UT Southwestern and at UT Dallas, and where may Richardson be a part of that ecosystem as well. And we're doing some place spreading strategy, looking at how we deploy the brand through portals and signage and public art with the new IQ Innovation Quarter name. And then lastly, we're just kicking off a new Smart Cities Toolkit that looks at the infrastructure needs to really build out this district as a high-tech testing ground for new technology. We've done a number of marketing outreach activities, and we've just kicked off a new kind of networking programming program called the IQ Brew, where every morning, doing it twice a month in the mornings, you do get a virtual coffee now and go online, but we did have one in-person event during COVID, and you'll see we are social distance and masked up, looking at a facility here in Richardson that really had a pivot during COVID. They build machinery for oil and gas, and when that took a hit, they actually pivoted and started building shipping container homes and backyard cottages for people who have a work home and want to have an outdoor area or have an office kind of separated from the house. And so a really successful business plan, but really unique opportunity to kind of show the uniqueness and innovation going on in the IQ with businesses here today. We also are on social media now with Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. We're also on Meetup, and this is the platform we use for all of our virtual networking events. And that gives you an idea of the amount of events we're having so far. We got eight that kicked off in September, and it really features not only the businesses in the IQ, but also subject matter experts. For example, in the 1st of December, we had the U.S. Patent and Trademark Company come and speak about the process for registering products with the trademark and patent agency. So really unique pieces that we can help educate and inform the businesses and workers in the IQ. We also have a new website, richardsoниq.com, and this gives you a lot of information about the history of the IQ, what our goals are, what are our target industries and businesses, and then where we're going from here in the future. Our land use framework, and this is kind of a product of our 2018 visioning effort, and this led us into the rezoning effort of the 1,200 acres, which identified really 4 unique areas in the IQ. The area around the Arapahoe Center Station, along the 75 corridor, the Greenville Avenue area, which has transitioned a lot from industrial properties to residential properties to really provide a living component to the live, work, invent characteristics of the IQ. The area along Duck Creek corridor, which we'll talk about that at the end, and then kind of the overall area in purple, which is the work areas that really focus on recruitment of more modern flex space, more affordable existing spaces, and also having the ability for scalable, affordable space for growing businesses. This kind of gives you an idea of the kind of characteristics of each of those 4 sub-districts. This one being the employment sub-district, which is the 730 acres. It's the majority of the IQ, which we really want to keep for low and medium density kind of working areas, but having the walkability and bikeability components, reducing parking minimums for allowing property owners to expand their businesses. And then in these areas, there's no maximum building height. So being able to also go vertical within these areas is a key characteristic. Station area really is where we see a lot of the high density transit-oriented development uses, things like mixed use residential, much more compact land use patterns, reducing parking minimums, no maximum building heights again. But these uses really are focused on more residential live work uses, retail uses, but also having areas for co-working and a potential innovation hub that really could be a catalyst for the redevelopment of the Arapahoe Center Station. The Greenville area, which looks at incorporating more residential uses within the industrial areas and using the east side mixed use development as a catalyst to kind of spill over to the east side of Greenville Avenue and really kind of expand what is going on kind of organically along Greenville Avenue with the introduction of new residential uses. And lastly, it's the Duck Creek area, which is a unique area that kind of straddles Duck Creek corridor. It has businesses that front the creek. And so it's a unique area for us to start looking at how we can kind of start using that creek as a secondary entrance, and in some cases, even a primary entrance to businesses along the green corridor. We know how important green areas are and active trails are. We see that all across North Texas. And so this is an opportunity for us to look at Duck Creek as one of those key catalyst sites and areas for us to focus on. One of the sites in particular is actually a building that's owned by the City of Richardson that you all are aware of at 1302 East Collins. This actually shows you the backing up to Duck Creek. And what we did last year is we took this site and we activated it. This is called tactical urbanism, where we bring in some of the urban principles and best planning practices of connecting folks along the creek, bringing amenities along the creek, and even activating the back side of the buildings, and tested how these features worked. It's a great opportunity for us to not only get feedback from the public on things they want to see, but also an opportunity for people to look and feel on how the district could look like if we were to bring in some of these new amenities along Duck Creek at 1302 East Collins. So we really see this building serving as a key catalyst and kind of a showcase for what could happen all along the Duck Creek corridor for private property owners. So this is the building kind of a concept rendering that we have presented to the University of Texas at Dallas. I will say this is very conceptual. So we're going through the pricing process now. So you may see some things here that you don't see whenever we get to the final product, as I'm working with Steve and his team on this. But want to give you an idea of kind of what we're envisioning for 1302 East Collins as serving as that catalyst for all the Duck Creek subdistrict and redevelopment, and really serving as a headquarters for all the businesses here in the IQ in Richardson, and being that resource for new businesses and business growth. We really see that front entrance as serving as not only a primary entrance for the city and having some city offices in this facility for economic development and for business recruitment and retention, but also having the University of Texas at Dallas being a part of this initiative really provides us another level of expertise and research and collaboration that we really see as a keystone for all the IQ, and particularly for the Duck Creek subdistrict, as serving as that catalyst. We also see this facility serving as not only for event space for the university and for the city, but also serving as space for training opportunities and for things like the Capital Factory down in Dallas to come up here to Richardson and provide some programming for the students and for our businesses and for workers in the IQ, and really being that center of collaboration and hub for the city. Also being kind of that staple of how we can kind of refresh these buildings in the IQ, and just adding some paint, adding some color, adding some improvements to the facility, really kind of start showcasing this facility for future improvements. And I mentioned that back area serving as an example to how to activate the Duck Creek corridor and providing that natural amenity for people who work here in the district. You'll see here some of the improvements that are already kind of underway. The Duck Creek Trail that I mentioned that we tested out has now been constructed and built. We had the ribbon cutting last weekend, and really is a great resource for this facility and also for Duck Creek, of connecting the district to the residential area over to the east. And you'll see a helicopter. We had some new HVAC systems delivered last week and brought them in by helicopter. Actually a more affordable and quicker way to do it than cranes. And so this facility will have all great new HVAC systems, and you'll start seeing some of the improvements kind of going on with the facility today, and kind of in preparation of this great partnership we have with the university and using this facility for business growth and innovation. I'll mention just quickly some recognitions we have that we've done with all this work, and also with partnership with the university, of being recognized at the International Economic Development Council for our block party event that had over 500 submissions from 4 different countries, that we were recognized for this kind of temporary tactical urbanism placemaking exercise to start building some of these improvements in the future, and also our work with our form-based code and the visioning study we've had at the state. With that, I'll turn it back over to you all for any kind of questions, but really appreciate the opportunity to be here today to provide you this overview of the IQ and what we're hoping to build in partnership with the university.
Thank you so much, Doug. We do have a couple of questions for you. The first one, how will the Richardson IQ be partnered with the other innovation quarters in DFW?
No, good question. We have been working really closely these last few months, especially during the COVID times, to really get connected on what is going on within the region. So I've mentioned Capital Factory and the folks they have down there. Now they're going more virtual, so we've been working with them on some potential programs they can bring to us in a virtual environment now that they're going virtual these next few months. Also the DEC, we've been very plugged in with the DEC on what they also are planning on doing. Now they're moving into some of the co-working spaces for some of their programming pieces, but they also want to be a very big part of what we're doing here in the IQ. Last thing I'll mention is we're working right now with the University at Texas at Dallas, in addition, to bring the 1 Million Cups program to Richardson. This is done by the Kauffman Foundation. There are a number of 1 Million Cups programs. There's one in Dallas, there's one in Irving, there's one in Fort Worth and Frisco. And so now we're going to be a part of that ecosystem as well, to be connected to what's going on in our other communities. So some really excitement kind of going on with that as well.
Great. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Dr. Calvin D. Jamison, who serves as the Vice President for Facilities and Economic Development at the University of Texas at Dallas. His office is responsible for overseeing facilities management, economic development, construction, real estate, and auxiliary services. In a time of tremendous growth for the university, he continues to lead more than $1.5 billion in development and the addition of approximately 11.7 million new and renovated square feet to the campus, including a mixed-use development called Northside, also known as Comet Town. UT Dallas has received 35 awards for building designs, LEED certification, and sustainability under his leadership. Prior to his appointment at UT Dallas, Dr. Jamison served as a Senior Vice President and Chief Administrative Officer at Hampton University. He also previously served as Chief Executive Officer and City Manager of Richmond, Virginia, where he oversaw almost $4 billion in new development with a $1.2 billion budget and 4,500 employees. Held faculty and administrative positions at Virginia Commonwealth University and Virginia Tech, and worked in the private sector with the Ethel Corporation. Thank you for joining us today, Dr. Jamison.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to join you. And I think Doug was right on time in terms of his efforts. And I'm going to piggyback some of that and talk a little bit about the town-gown relationship. I happen to have the experience of being on both sides of the town and gown, and I must say that the relationship with Richardson is one of the best I've ever experienced. And town gown, so people understand, town being Richardson and gown being the university. And for those who've ever worked in an environment, sometimes that's not always a good place to be. There's always an adversarial relationships. But when it comes to our experiences here at UT Dallas, we have one of the best in the country, and we're excited about that aspect of what we've been able to do. To put things in perspective, just a summary, just say simply that number has grown to well over 12 million square feet and almost $2 billion in new development here at UT Dallas. I came in 2007. We were 14,000 students. At present, we're COVID, prior to COVID, we'd gone to 29,500 students. Last year, we're a little over 28,000 students, most of which were virtually. But we've grown, and it's because of the relationship we have with the city that's allowed us to work. And so people understand that when it comes to state agencies, we actually have the ability to function independently of a jurisdiction. However, we have chosen to work closely with the City of Richardson in all of our planning and things that we decide to do. For that reason, we've been able to develop an extraordinary relationship with the City of Richardson, and everything we do around planning and putting together a lot of different things is because of that relationship with City Council and the citizens and homeowners association, in terms of what we've been able to do. So I'm gonna quickly take you through a slide presentation and some highlights of some of the things we've been able to do, but also you'll see some repeated slides and different perspectives of those respective slides. IQ is the latest in terms of a partnership we have, and I just simply say this. Most cities around us would love to have UT Dallas. We are a multi-billion-dollar contribution to the economy of the City of Richardson. And we are the University of Texas at Dallas in Richardson. And for that reason, you can rest assured that probably each and every council members speak with pride the contribution. And they respect us, and we respect them greatly in terms of things that we do. In fact, some are actually graduates of UT Dallas. I wanted just to highlight a couple of partnerships that we have in place. And I'll start from the bottom left. We developed a partnership with regards to a hike and bike path around the campus, 3.4 acres, 3.4 miles, excuse me, around the campus that we do have, that we partner with the city, that citizens throughout Richardson can utilize. that take advantage of the campus and the structure that we put in place. From there, I talk about the things we've done, particularly with our Northside development. And Northside is truly a partnership because we've utilized a private entity to come in. We've leased the land and we've been able to develop a partnership by which the city has worked with that private entity and put those on the tax rolls. With those buildings on the tax rolls, there's about 2,600 beds. When I first arrived, we had 2,500 beds on campus. We now, in the fall of 21, we have some 8,100 beds on campus. In addition to that, the other three pictures speaks to the relationship we have in terms of the DART station on our campus. We've been working on bringing on board a DART station at UT Dallas that will have one of the only urban DART stations on a college campus, really in the country. I think UNT Dallas Southside has one that they've developed or are developing, but there are very few that you'll find that has this kind of energy. And this is one of 6 groundbreakings that they had on the day that they put this one together. Early on in the process, the city worked with us in putting in the loop road around our campus, and this actually created some energy to take persons off of Floyd Road as we worked with the homeowners associations around Cottonwood Creek and Canyon Creek to make sure that we're sensitive to the needs that the citizens have. When you grow from some 14,000 to 29,000 students, there can be some traffic issues along the way, and some universities don't always think about their communities, but we do. We care and we work closely with the city in terms of what we do along the way. So, the IQ. He talked about the building itself and the partnership. I'm going to quickly go through this about what this means for all of us. And here is the big issue, and I think Steve is going to cover this again, as Doug has. But the biggest issue here is this is another step in that partnership that we put together. And probably the most important part of this one is that we're able to, at the end of the day, have the ability to transition and have a presence in a major part of the campus, major part of the city itself, bringing that expertise to the IQ. We expect the final product to be similar to this. And let me reiterate this one. And I think Dr. Pancrazio and I have had this conversation. He's on this call, but also the VP for research, about how we collaborate in such a way to show the partnership and show our ability to go from beginning to commercialization and utilize the talent base we have at UT Dallas. Just think about it. We're the United Nations. In terms of our student body, we have extraordinary intellectual capital, and we have a lot of startup companies that began at UT Dallas that I'm sure Steve will discuss in more detail. But more importantly, we created the infrastructure to make this process work. When you look at this, he mentioned the capital factory, but more importantly, when we look at structures that we put together, probably the most important thing for us is creating a sense of place. And that sense of place for incubation is what makes the difference in terms of the partnership we put together as a campus and as a community. As a former city manager, we use these places to not only bring together students, but sometimes they became community places too along the way. This particular one speaks to the space that's going to be allocated and how it can be structured in such a way that it can be a combination of teaching space as well as incubator space for the respective entities, and Steve will cover this more as well. Now, what does this mean? Why this works overall? Thought I would do some comparative maps in terms of the routes that UT Dallas would reach to look at the IQ. As a former city manager, a lot of the issue has to do with location. And if you look at UT Dallas, it's on the corner of George Bush and 75. And then there's the DART station, which we have, and there's a civil line that takes you all the way to DFW. But the way this works here is that if you notice the slide on the left, there's the new DART station that you can catch easily over to George Bush and then down to Arapahoe, which Arapahoe, when it's complete, as Doug articulated his message, has the ability to create a unique development opportunity that's going to be adjacent to the IQ, which is really going to change the energy that's a part of the that part of Richardson itself. The other route on the slide on the right shows the quick vehicle route to get to the IQ as well off of Collins Boulevard. So the proximity to the IQ is so easy. Accessibility to the IQ is so easy, so it makes it easy for us to take advantage of the resources that are there. So what we see happening here is that for all the right reasons, our location, the great facilities that are there, and the great partnership that has a lot to do with the town gown has created such dynamic that this is going to be a special place for all of us. A long-term strategy is that we plan to be about 35,000, and we plan to grow our research dramatically in terms of what we plan to do overall. So the partnership, the town gown relationship, is one of the best in the country. And people always ask us, how do we make it work? And we make it work is because we listen to each other and we work together to get things done. And we look at the big picture. And the university listens and the council listens. And we create win-win-win. And that's what makes this process work. This is what the new civil line is going to look like when it's completed. And that'll be completed in the spring of 23. Anticipated around March of 23, the first train will be on its way to DFW. And I will tell you, it will forever change combination of Richardson as well as UT Dallas and the dynamics of everything around it. And that should be it. So thank you. And if you have any questions, I'll take them.
Yes, we do. As you look at potential business partners, Dr. Jamison, are there particular themes that have emerged that could match with what the university could provide?
Well, I'll ask my colleagues when they follow the piggyback on that question too. But I think we have a strong entrepreneurial spirit and things that we do. We're research oriented. And from an innovation perspective, we're going to be on the cutting edge of that research innovation. And what I would argue that technology is going to be on the forefront of all the things that we do, as well as discovery of new ideas around the research discovery. We actually, on our campus down at UT Southwestern, have a unique partnership around biomedical engineering and sciences that we're actually working on building a building in that regard. And we have the biomedical BSB here that we've done a lot of research. We actually have 400 square feet under one roof here on this campus, which is almost unheard of. So a lot of it's coming out of our labs, out of our technology. So you have the research, the technology, and you have the components associated with that, the bio. Now, I'm sure Steve and also Joe will talk about that as well. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I think I'll hand one more question over to you, Dr. Jamison. Regarding the conceptual rendering that Doug shared, was impressive. Do you plan on using this building as a hub for UT labs to do their research? Currently, we have the Center of Brain Health and the Center of Longevity, but they are far from campus.
Well, as the university grows, I think there will be a number of hubs, but as you look at Richardson and the partnership we have will mean that we'll need to have a strong presence in the IQ. which is a strong anchor. And if you look at that process, as they build out the portion of Arapahoe Station and all of the Arapahoe development around the Arapahoe Station, that's going to be a strong anchor. And you're going to have the Center for Brain Health, you're going to have Center for Vital Longevity. All of those are anchors for the work we want to get done. Not just one place. I think we're going to need to have anchors along with everything we're also doing on campus. So not just one place, but multiple places. We're a growing campus and we'll be diversifying.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Steve Guengerich. He is the Associate Vice President for Innovation and Commercialization at UTD. He is an entrepreneur, educator, and an author of several books and numerous articles on information technology. This virtual stage is yours, Steve G.
Thank you, Enrica. And I'm going to bring us home in this conversation. And I'm going to start with this slide first. If you'll recall, Dr. Jamison showed you just a few moments ago a quick bird's eye view looking from the sky straight down on the 1302 Collins space, and more highlighting that central space, which is a kind of a common area. The right-hand space, which we'll just sort of call a shell right now, is a little over 10,000 square feet. And as you can see, we've kind of labeled it Venture Development Center. That's what the VDC is, and then UT Dallas. And the reason that those two different labels are applied is because while this space is broadly available for a diverse group of UT Dallas affiliated programs and entities, so whether it's the Center for Brain Health or Vital Longevity or any number of different groups to be able to come in and use the space, the VDC, the Venture Development Center, will be kind of the active space manager on behalf of the different uses and different groups that would like access to it. So we've worked with, and the Venture Development Center is part of my operation at UT Dallas in the Office of Research, and so we'll continue to sort of be your primary point of contact and liaison with the City of Richardson to look at and see different ways you can use it. One thing I'll make a point of real quickly here, and there'll be much more coming out about this space over time, is that while we perceive that a core location for the center or centers that are we hope to see submitted and stood up in part of this space, as Dr. Jamison mentioned just a minute ago, this by no means has to be the only location for it. We see it as a central point of gravity for the centers that are discussed in the request for proposal, which we'll look at here in just a second, but not necessarily are they the is this the only location for those different centers. I wanted to quickly go through the web page application for the center that we're discussing here for the RFP. It's at the research.utdallas.edu link. You can see the full URL there. You've probably received a couple of different emails in your general email box about this center application. If you're familiar with having applied or reviewed for any of the seed grant proposals that have been put out over the past year and a half or so, then this should be somewhat familiar to you. In fact, you can see some of the other seed program mentions in the left-hand navigation. You know, as you just sort of quickly going down, the key date is January 15th. That's when we expect submissions. We're looking at minimum 2, but up to 3 years of funding for the center. You can see the eligibility guidelines. Like any proposal, these are the baseline that we expect. There are always the possibilities of certain exceptions, so we won't try and necessarily explore any of those exceptions in detail right now, other than to say that as you apply for them, if you have an exception in your proposal, it would help to note it, and then the review team can consider that as we go through the analysis of the proposal. But it's important to have real strong leadership in this from a research perspective, because, you know, as you think about it, the location is really becomes a highly visible location in the central headquarters, if you will, for this enormously vibrant future investment that the city of Richardson and the surrounding region is making. And so by having a center in there, you would get, I would assume and expect, outsized attention into what your research plans and interests are over time. So it's really important that we see that there's a strong research basis for what you want to achieve there, and one that's very much steeped in a connection to industry and industry partners that would have interest in the outcomes of the research. Some fairly standard statements regarding what allowable expenses are and not. And then for the submission materials, we've tried to sort of strike a balance between a fairly lightweight and more involved proposal. So we want to make it something that is relatively straightforward, especially given the time of exactly having a month from today with the holiday to be able to submit it. So roughly a quick intro abstract, if you will, in the summary, then a few pages of description, you know, and real focus on kind of what the possibilities might be here related to the industry engagement, the potential research agenda, your sort of interests from the leadership and team perspective, and then how you might consider what would be interesting for you in the space. A little bit of information on the budget and the budget assumptions, the justification, if you will. And then we think that because you'll be in such a visible location and will have the power, if you will, of not just the university, but the city and the other community and industry investors that care about the success of the Innovation Quarter, that there should be a real important component for your assumptions on budget about co-funding and the ability to bring in industry partners as a part of this. The evaluation criteria, again, somewhat standard, fairly quick and robust on the review. We expect to have an answer back for the award relatively soon. And then some of the requirements for the award's recipient that are, again, somewhat standard for the seed fund grants. Some final terms and conditions, and that's it. Suzanne and Emily, who've been your contacts for other seed fund programs, are contacts again here for any of underlying questions related or problems related to the form and submitting the application, and then any of the other ancillary materials that go with it. There was a question related to, and Dr. Jamison answered it partly, a question related to the desired kinds of labs and other programs that would be available. I would think first and foremost that in Doug's comments and what's described in the Innovation Quarter vision, that's certainly an important consideration. The Innovation Quarter is a place where there'll be ample grants for experimentation. So many of the different research areas that UT Dallas already excels in could be possible extended operations or new operations for things that we already have going on. So areas of mobility, areas of artificial intelligence and machine learning. Doug spoke about life sciences, so biotech, bioinformatics. These are all different areas really reflecting what is going on in terms of some of the future trends and areas of great investment that we expect in the economy. So I think all of those would be fair game, and all those are desirable segments from what we've had in the way of conversations with the IQ principals. I'm going to stop there because I want to respect the fact that we had budgeted an hour for this meeting, ask Enrique if there are any questions that we can address.
Thank you, Steve. There is one new one. There's an audience member that would like to know, what does this mean? The proposal must offer a clear fiscal plan negotiated with participating school leadership for supporting center operations after the duration of the CENT-IQ award. So who is the school leadership that's being referred to?
Well, it would be, I think it's going to be a combination of the Office of Research and then also the individual school that the team is based in, if you will. So one of the 8 colleges at the university. So some combination of those, probably dependent more on if there's an assumption about additional funding and support from that school as a part of the budget. But it would be, for example, brain and behavioral health or arts technology and emerging communications, Johnson School, etc.
Okay, I think all of the questions in the Q&A chat have been addressed either verbally by the current speakers or through the chat. So that's all we have right now.
Yeah, thank you all very much. I know I flew through the submission fairly quickly. I guess I'll leave a couple of quick remarks about this. This is, I believe, an incredibly great opportunity for those leaders amongst our faculty, researchers, and others who see the potential for partnering with industry. Again, this center creates a place in the heart of a very vibrant and large investment for the future of Richardson in this North Texas region. And we're very excited for UT Dallas to be partnering, as Dr. Jamison mentioned, with the city and other regional players to kind of plant our flag there in a very prominent way. Again, whether you are submitting for a center through this CENT-IQ proposal, or whether you just believe you have classroom activity or workshop activity, or even public presentation and engagement opportunities that you would like to design into what you're doing right now, we hope you'll contact us, because there will be space available in that footprint that we have at the 1302 Collins building to accommodate a lot of activity around research and economic impact. So I hope you'll reach out to me or Dr. Jamison or Doug and ask further questions, and we'll look forward to seeing your proposals in January. Thank you. That's all I have.
We actually have a number of questions that have just flown through, so I'm going to open this up to all of the speakers. Whoever would be the best person to answer it, please. The first one, for the space of Center at IQ, is it joint space between UTD and the City of Richardson? Does UTD faculty need to pay for the rent?
So I'll start by that, and first let me say that the various use models from a business use perspective of the space are still to be determined. So the short answer is that there'll be a good bit of common use space in the footprint that is the UT Dallas footprint that I had showed earlier. And so for that part, UT Dallas students and faculty and staff will have some general access to the space. There'll be certain areas that will be reservable, and then others that will be open meeting space, not unlike going into the commons area of one of our current buildings. So there will be that. There will be a set of offices that will be affiliated with the centers. Offices, small and large, that will be affiliated with the center or centers that end up at the Richardson space. And then there'll be a set of offices that are available for a below market rate for startup founders and staff people that are working on a venture of some kind. And that's that's what would be managed from the Venture Development Center. So some will be available to faculty and students, some will be available to startup companies. The latter will be paying for the space. And then there's also a common use space for presentations and large classroom discussions, mini conferences that are part of the space that's general for any user of the building, not just UT Dallas. And that'll be available as well. That seats a large number of people. I hope that's answered the question.
And I'll just add one point is that when the lease was put together, it was very clear that the city wanted to have a true town-gown relationship. And so they made it very attractive for us to go in, and they wanted to make an investment in this property, and they wanted to have a strong presence of UTD in this location. And so, which made it easier for Steve and for Dr. Pancrazio to come in and have a presence, and for our faculty to come in and basically use this as a true incubator of activity.
Yep.
Excellent.
Enrica, another question?
Yes. Is there a specific number of centers to be funded?
There's not a hard number. There's obviously limited space. When I mentioned there's 10,000 square feet for UT Dallas, and then an additional space in the building that's not yet claimed, but would need to be worked out as a subsequent agreement with the city. So there'll be some space constraints, but if it's one, if it's two, it's two, and beyond. We're really looking for centers that really match the interests of the location and the quarter, the IQ.
And I think that probably answers the next question. Do you have advice for someone writing to apply to the Cent IQ?
No, I think we've tried to keep the RFP sort of stripped down and fairly lightweight regarding what we're looking to do. I think my biggest word of advice is just repeating some of what we've said already. This will be a very visible to industry and civic interests, not just in the Richardson area, but in the greater North Texas area. We expect a lot of activity of different types related to research themes that are important. And so if you want to engage with industry, this is going to be a really great place to be.
Excellent. Are you interested in catalyzing the smart city aspects?
Yes, 100%. Smart cities is important to the region, and it's certainly important to North Texas. We and the city are united in an interest in finding ways to be able to highlight and demonstrate certain smart cities principles. So to the extent that that was something that one wanted to call out in their proposal, that would certainly be of value.
Thank you. Are there plans for smart walls with screens to showcase active maps of the city relevant to smart city applications?
There's a lot of wall space intentionally designed for novel uses, and both a temporary and permanent wall space. And there's, at least in the current designs of the space, the UT Dallas space, there's large reconfigurable areas as well. So I would say that while not specific to that particular question related to smart walls, I would say if you can dream it, we hopefully can accommodate it. So we'd be there will be ways to be able to make that happen.
I don't know if there were last comments. I know, Steve, you've already given some.
No, I think that's it. I thank Dr. Jamison for all of his support and leadership in making this happen. Dr. Pancrazio obviously is a great partner and advocate for this, and Doug and our city partners for helping to work through this and make this opportunity available. So we will see your emails and proposals, and thank you very much to the organizing team here today. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. One last thing, if I could, just say the epitome of the town-gown relationship is that I didn't discuss it, but I'll close out on it, is that if you watch the tower that's on campus, and one side it has UT Dallas, the other side has the City of Richardson, and true branding. So it shows the relationship we put together to make things like the IQ work.
Amen to that.
All right.
Thank you all.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you. All right, take care.
Thank you.